Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Let's Talk Version. We are joined by Dan, as always. Hey there, Dan. How are you?
Hey there, my man. I'm really great to be here with you right now. Life is wonderful and fantastic. Just finished a very, very long day of work, but not at all tired because I'm feeling excited to be here with you. I mean, when you do what you love, you don't lose energy, you just gain energy, right? And I'm feeling wonderful right now. Glad to be here with you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It's a joy to, keep on hammering on and doing good stuff. So today,
although personally speaking, I've never thought of the word hammering on because I just never thought of using hammer a lot. Because they say if all you have is a nail, then I think if all you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. There's a famous statement like that one. So that's pretty cool.
Well,
love the hammer. Go for it, man.
We'll hammer.
That's pretty cool.
We use nails too.
That's awesome.
All right. So today's topic, we are going to be talking about the idea of cooking at home, preparing your food at home versus basically eating outside, buying your food from a vendor or something. The notion being, okay, what are the upside and downsides of each of them? How do you compare the two? And what our personal choices are and why. So
fantastic. But let me just stop you right now, Poujix. Yeah. Do you cook? Can you cook? Because you live alone in Canada right now, I think for 3 or 4 years now, right?
3 years, yeah, a little over 3 years. Yeah.
So you've lived alone. You're a bachelor. You're single. You're not married.
Right.
And do you cook? Can you cook?
So that's a tricky question. That depends on what you define cooking. So I can.
Oh shit! Oh my! It depends on the food you're talking, right? It depends on the food.
Precisely. I can prepare food well enough that I can eat and enjoy and not die. But
and one question: when you prepare that food, are you the only person who can actually eat that food, or others can also eat?
I wouldn't. Let me put it this way. I wouldn't invite people to eat my cooking.
I got it. Message received. We got it. That's right.
Yeah. So it's like if I'm having people over, it's best if we order something in. Yet again, I do enjoy the degree that I do cook and prepare food. And I do enjoy my experiments rather with food basically. So sometimes especially with new experiments, sometimes things go really haywire, and it's not really fun. But sometimes they turn out actually pretty good. So it's not a reliable source. That's the problem mainly.
Okay, very good. Fantastic.
So how about yourself? I don't know. So I think you have
here's the problem. I think I've been spoiled at a young age because I never had to cook until a very late age, unfortunately. Right. So either I was basically being fed when I was a kid by my mother, and then we had a housemaid, so she would cook for us. Mm-hmm. So generally, unfortunately, I never had the chance to learn how to cook. The problem that I have with cooking is generally I do not have a lot of patience because for me, like, time is equivalent to, it's like this huge currency that I have to spend on only the most important thing that I have the talent for. And I don't have any talent for cooking, but I'm going to say that it just takes a lot of energy out of me because of a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm an extrovert, so I need to just talk all the time. And because of this, if I'm alone by myself at home cooking, after a while, I might even get depressed or something, literally. I start talking to myself to the wall or like to the frying pan, like, hey, frying pan, how's it going? You look like a human being.
Well, that's a very good conversation.
You can have that one, basically. However, while I'm not able to cook, I've been usually complimented on being able to make good salads because I generally love salads very much. Mm-hmm. And for me, salads are very special in that they give me the chance to basically eat healthy because they allow you to somehow fake your brain and your mind to think that you're full when you're not. And you can also add some chicken as well. So when it comes to making salads, I'm generally not the worst in the world. And I've received a couple of compliments when I actually did have the chance to make some salads. But when it comes to actually cooking, I generally am not good. And here's a serious problem because I have a lot of food allergies. And if I had learned cooking at an early age, this would have solved a lot of my problems. Right. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I travel a lot and I work in different countries, and I do not have access to a housemaid in every country I travel to. So sometimes I just have to resort to the old American single guy's way of buying frozen food and then just using a microwave to just cook them all. And generally it's not very well, but I really want to at some point learn cooking because I think it's very, very important, especially for guys like us who are health conscious and who want to actually have a good body.
Exactly, and that's a very good point, because so for me, I try to refrain from a lot of things, and one of those things are the preservatives, so like the chemicals that you use to preserve the food, especially for the microwave foods, as you well know. So for that very reason, I had struggles like you. I wasn't good at cooking. I wasn't really interested in it either, and at the same time, I was very conscious of the time that I have to spend on cooking, because I didn't take the joy that a lot of people take out of it, that they feel like it's actually a good investment of their time. So my point was, I want to be able to eat something and not die and have nutrition in my body. But at the same time, for various reasons, which I'm going to give you a few of them right now, the big ones, I didn't want to eat outside. One of which I already explained is that the health conscious aspect of it. And the second part would be basically it would cost much less if you actually prepare the food for yourself, and you get to save a lot of money. And I cared about that quite a bit. So I had to, over this period of 3 years or a little bit more that you mentioned, I have developed like methodologies of how to basically optimize on all fronts. So I have just to give you very few examples of what I mean by these methodologies are. So I have a pressure cooker and I also have a toaster oven, and with the combination of the two, I can pretty much prepare any kind of food that I want to eat very quickly, and I don't have to spend a lot of time.
One question about those pressure cooker: aren't they a bit dangerous or something?
How come? No, I never heard such a thing. I don't know.
Some explosions happening, or I don't know, something like that. Because it takes a lot of pressure, right? And there's a lot of pressure inside of that thing. So if it goes whammo, maybe like you might have some problem. But you have to find your food on the ceilings, basically.
I might find myself on the ceiling.
That's possible.
No, but I don't think the risks are too high, especially the model that I got. It's a very advanced model, and it has sensors all over the place, and it just and it stops it if it has to. It has preservation methods. I don't think it's
sensors. Is like a digital cooker or something.
Yeah. It's a digital cooker with multifunction. There's so many presets and
what's the brand, buddy?
I forgot the name of the brand, actually.
We don't want to advertise any brands on this podcast now, unless we find a sponsor. But generally speaking, is it a good brand? Are you satisfied?
Yeah. I got it off Amazon a while ago, and so on Prime Day it was on sale, and I hear from various different people that actually they got it too, or they heard about it on Prime Day. So it was apparently a huge deal on the day that I didn't know, but I got it myself.
One question, how do you exactly, because I actually want to learn some basic cooking, and generally I don't want to ask girls about this because most girls have had years of experience. So it's like a rookie who has never played chess goes to, for example, Kasparov and says, so how can I start playing? Like, it makes no sense, right?
No,
so,
absolutely.
But you're a dude, you're like me, you're single. So generally, what is exactly a pressure cooker, and like, how do you like cook inside of that thing?
Okay, so the thing is that with pressure cooker, one of the benefits is that everything is so fast because it's a pressure cooker. So for example, if you want to have, let's say, just a few examples, they're all, by the way, carbon-based, actually, that I'm thinking about. Rice, pasta, or potatoes, or something like that. Or you can have vegetables. There's in this particular model, there's a feature that is a steam cook, which essentially is the same scenario like a pressure cook, but with a lower pressure. So if you put vegetables in it, it doesn't crumble. So it preserves its essence, and so you can prepare vegetables like that very quickly, and I mean very quickly, like 10 minutes tops.
You're joking? 10 minutes?
Oh yeah, you can cook all kinds of meats. Although I prefer to cook the meats in my toaster oven. Because it gives it better taste. Personally, that's my preference.
Dude, you sound like a friggin' chef here. Oh my goodness, you don't have preferences for cooking. I don't even know how to cook the damn thing. You're talking about your preferences, like, based on my opinion, it's going to be a lot better because the temperature is much better than the other one.
No, that's the thing.
Man, you look like, literally, you're going to have one of these huge mustaches now and those funny hats. You're going to have like a cooking show.
Well, that's actually simpler than that. Let me tell you why. Because this preference, by the way, is very new. I generated this preference, say, a month ago, not that long ago. So the reason is I was using pressure cooker to prepare chicken or whatever, and then I was like, you know what, a toaster oven should be good too. It's literally like an oven, so I can try it. And I tried it, and it was amazing. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And since then, I never went back to the pressure cooker for meat.
Wow.
Chicken.
And one question,
sausage.
buddy, before we go any further, because you're talking to a huge amateur here. How the hell do you cook chicken? Because I know how do you barbecue chicken, but how do you cook chicken?
So look, when you put it in the toaster oven, it's essentially like barbecuing it because, well, you don't need to use oil, you don't need to fry it or anything. The only thing that it matters is the seasoning of it, if you care, which is similar to barbecue, basically. So,
and if you don't do it, of course, it smells like hell, right?
It smells like hell, but also it's very tasteless. It doesn't have that much taste. So what I really like to add...
You literally sound like a fucking chef who's working some major French restaurant for 20, like, feel the texture of this food and try to touch it, and then you're going to have understanding of this, how great this will sound, and this will taste.
It's like...
you got to talk right now with a French accent or something.
Oui.
Very nice. We have to right now cook this material. That would be very nice.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the idea, right? No, but again, these are all based on experiments. I literally there were people who advised me, but honestly, it was all. I had to go through eating a lot of tasteless chickens that I was like, fuck, I gotta figure something out.
One question: did you get these advices from ladies or from gentlemen?
Actually, across the board, honestly. As you mentioned, like ladies tend to be get more sophisticated, and I'm like, look, calm down. And I don't want to spend that much time. I just want something tolerable enough that I can eat, enjoy, and live. So yeah, you're right. Even guys who are like super, like sort of experts in the area, quote unquote, they tend to, anybody who gets to be an expert tends to go a little bit overboard. But as soon as I explain to them that, I don't want to spend that much time, and at the same time, I don't really care that much. I just want to prepare something for myself that I can eat and enjoy at the same time and move on. And then they understand what I mean, mostly at least, and they give me good advice. But honestly, I tried a lot of the times I tried some things that a lot of people said, but eventually I drew my conclusion based on the experiments that I embarked upon. So, for example, I had to go through so many tasteless chickens, and I was like, you know what?
Dude, there's a lot of difference here because in my life I've gone through a lot of tasteless chicks, but not a lot of tasteless chickens. Because
I'm a chicken.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, one of my favorite elements in seasonings are the limes. When I pour limes and then I barbecue them, sort of like put it in the toaster oven with other stuff like pepper and stuff like that, it's just like lovely. I really like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing, buddy. Listen, I'm just so darn jealous of you right now because you can just go anywhere and cook, man, like literally. And one question, like, how often do you eat out?
So actually, recently, say a few months, I've been pretty much, say 80% a home cooked meal. But prior to that, it was actually the very opposite. It was probably 70% out, like cooked meal, like not me preparing the meal, basically. So again, as I mentioned, the two reasons. Since a few months ago, actually since around January, I decided to be super health conscious. So one of the things that was out of my diet, I was like, I'm cutting myself off alcohol, for example, completely.
So now you're a teetotaler. You don't drink alcohol.
Oh no, not at all. And since then, I only had a tiny sip of wine. The reason was because somebody was basically, it was a nice gesture from somebody, and they were they technically bought it for me, so I didn't want to be rude. I took a sip and I was like, I have migraines and sulfite doesn't go well with migraines, so I made up an excuse. But I took a sip, so I'm not disrespectful to them. But then the
so one question is this true, by the way? If you have migraine, you can't drink alcohol, right?
Well, it depends. If it has sulfite, no. That's a major problem with sulfite.
Because sometimes I sit down with these Russian guys for our meetings and stuff, and as you know, in Russia, there's a huge tradition that if you don't drink their alcohol, then you're rude or something, right? if I just tell these guys that I have migraine, is that going to be okay?
Well, it depends. Again, most wines do have sulfite, but other than that, I'm not too sure if other types of alcohols have sulfites.
Oh boy, that's
But
a good one. So one thing that you've done, you cut basically alcohol from your diet. Any
yeah.
other changes you've made to make yourself healthier?
So yeah, the preservants, the chemicals that we use in preserving the food, for example, in canned food or in so I try to get anything that I want as fresh as possible. So I'm not using preservatives. So for
Very
example,
nice.
I'm buying fresh vegetables instead of canned materials, buying fresh
You
meat
are
instead of
kidding me. You buy fresh vegetables
yeah
too?
yeah
That's unbelievable, man. You literally are like a half physicist, half chef. Like literally, it's freaking unbelievable. I can just imagine like and the gravity on the texture of this food is pretty nice. I can put it up in the air, basically, and I get this.
I think in space the meat would be like no. Honestly,
Wow.
I'm really not that good. It's painting a wrong picture. The only reason this is honest. I'm not trying to downplay it, and I'm not trying to be humble here. The only reason that I sound like I'm quote unquote expert is because I've really done these things, and this is like literally my experience. Otherwise,
Wow.
the end result is very average. It's very normal. But
still,
it's fine by me.
Let's be honest, man. It's about the impact on your health. I mean, just
True.
Let's think of it like not now, but think of it like 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Think
absolutely.
of what's the difference between eating with your friggin' microwave for with preserved food and stuff for like 10 years versus eating a meal that doesn't taste very well. Again, I'm not sure about that one because I probably think you have these huge recipes and stuff that like that, and you have this secret society of chefs who then search their recipes and stuff. Got to be pretty amazing. But
it's an underground society. Yeah.
Overall, like literally, I'm looking at your avatar here on this phone, and I just imagine you with those funny chef hats.
I should.
You're gonna be like really great on one of those hats. I'm telling you right now. Like I can just imagine on the side coming down towards your ear. It's gonna be fucking awesome.
You know what? I'm gonna get a hat. Okay.
Gotta be great, man. So overall, as I mentioned earlier, it's about your health because I myself, when I never overstay in a country where I don't have access to let's say, housemaid more than 3 weeks or a month because beyond that, I know that I'm harming my body.
Right.
And as you already mentioned earlier, I have this huge list of allergies, food allergies that I have basically that I have to get rid of somehow. And for the time being, I got to be very concerned. And like a lot of the things people can eat, I can't. Like if there's any amount of spice on that food, I'm done. Right. So because of this, I literally one of my biggest top goals in life is to learn cooking when I am traveling. Like if I can travel and cook, man, that'll just change my life completely. However, I mentioned earlier, I'm just a little bit too impatient most of the time, and that impatience usually causes a lot of pain. Because oh god, I gotta now peel off the goddamn potato. Now I gotta cut.
That's the thing. Like I'm in terms of impatience, I'm honestly super impatient, especially when it comes to cooking. Again, the reason is a lot of people take a lot of joy out of cooking. I really don't. So my point is, I want to get in, get out. That's it. I just want to prepare the food so I can eat. So that's one of the reasons that I don't come up with super tasty meals because I don't want to spend that much time on it. So I go with very simple scenarios. So for example, if I'm cooking potatoes, I actually don't peel them off. I'm like, okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna eat it with the skin, and that's perfectly fine.
You're not kidding. You eat it with the skin, right? You literally eat it with the skin.
Yeah, if you boil it, the skin really peels off on its own. Like, it just literally comes off. And if you bake it, who like
I can imagine people like these huge cavemen, like you can put it in your mouth, like I don't care. Give it to me.
Well, sort of. That's actually not entirely the wrong picture. It's sort of the right picture, but not to the extent of it.
And one question today, for example, I think now in Toronto it's probably afternoon, right?
Yeah, it's 2:30.
So think of yesterday. Of yesterday. How much time you spent cooking yesterday?
Oh, yesterday I had prepared meal, so I didn't actually. So and also, that's another thing that I do. Sometimes I cook in batches because I want to, for example, because I'm really not home most of the day. So when I go out, I come back pretty much in the evening or maybe sometimes at night. So I take my food with me, and so I cook a little bit more.
Eat outside.
Sorry. Yeah,
You eat outside,
so I
right?
take these containers, I put my food in it, and then wherever I go, I'll find a microwave or something, and if I'm on campus or something. So yeah, it's not it's very feasible, but point is when I'm cooking, I'm actually cooking in batches, so I have extra for the next day or maybe even 2 days sometimes.
For 2 days ahead, that's good for you, man. So you cook like two or three. I'm guessing 2 or 3 times per week, right?
Yeah, it will probably a little bit more, but along those lines, yeah.
Awesome. And how much time do you spend on cooking each time that you're cooking?
So yeah, that again depends on what I'm cooking and whatnot. But it doesn't, again, with the pressure cooker and toaster oven, it really doesn't take that long. The recipes that I want, and for example, especially with and while I'm waiting for them to do their thing, I actually bring my book on by the side of and I sit in front of them so I can keep an eye in just in case there's something like, especially with the toaster oven because you can burn it, right? So with pressure cooker, you can't really harm it much, so that's fine, and it makes a noise when it's done, so that's fine. But especially with the toaster oven, I just take my book or whatever I want to read or study or whatever. I bring it by the side. That's something that I can do portably, and keep an eye on it once in a while. So I'm sure it's not going to burn. And if I have to flip it, I flip it. That's it. So I'm not really wasting my time either. It's a pretty good deal.
But still, like in terms of like total net amount of time that you spend on cooking.
I don't really know. I never thought about it that much. Actually, maybe 30% of
You
it.
know what scares me? Because you love reading and stuff. Maybe like I feel like maybe you spend hours reading and you don't even notice time passing
No,
by.
it's not. It's definitely not hours, but I think again, I didn't time it, so I can't really say for sure. But so for example, in a batch of cooking, I can say, let's say in a batch of cooking that I'm cooking is like 1 hour maybe tops with everything I'm talking, and that includes washing the
Wow.
dishes too, basically, because I don't have a dishwasher in my new place, so I actually have
Oh
to
my.
wash the dishes. That's the gruesome part.
Manually, right? With your
Yeah,
hands.
yeah, yeah. Previously, I had the
Oh.
dishwasher, so that was fine, and I didn't have to. Honestly, 30% of the time is just washing dishes.
Oh my.
So if you
Tell
have a
me about it.
dishwasher, you're ahead of the curve, basically.
But one question right now, speaking of that, about the prices, because let's be honest, part of our decision to eat outside versus eat at home, it's about that financial aspect of it.
Sure,
So
sure.
right now, one question I want to ask you: how much does it take to hire a housemaid in Canada who will
No
cook
clue.
for you a couple times a week and also wash the dishes and just cleans and stuff? Like, what's the cost of that?
Honestly, no clue. I gotta look into that.
That's right. But I'm guessing if it's probably around this minimum wage thing, right? Probably.
I should be close to minimum wage, but if you want good quality food, probably you wanna hire somebody with more skills, so a little bit more. So let's say around
But
$20
let's
an
talk
hour.
somebody who's just average, right? Like an average housemaid,
Let's
right?
say $20 an hour, perhaps. I just a guess.
An hour. So how much time will it take him or her to cook 3 times a week or something
Per week?
and cleans your home and washes your dishes?
Per week?
That's right. Can you
Uh,
guess? Based upon your own experience of washing,
right,
basically washing the dishes and cooking and whatever it is. So like if you put it all
right. Maximum 10
together,
hours, I guess. Not
yeah,
definitely not more than 10 hours.
per week.
Sure, yeah.
So 10 hours times minimum wage right now. What's the Canada's minimum wage right now? $16 or something?
15.
$15.
14.5, but let's say 15. Yeah.
Oh, please, dude, that 50 cents is going to kill me. Just please tell me the number is not 15, 14.5. All right, no problem. 14.5.
I want to be
So
technical.
that's going to be exactly 145 cents. All right. $145, right?
Right, right.
So $145 a week, right?
Sure.
And per month, it'll be how much exactly?
So we have.
Dude, you made that 5 thing. That's pretty hard to calculate. God damn it.
That's what I
Could've been
told you.
60
Let's say
a lot.
150.
All right. So let's say you want to pay this guy some tip too. All right, make it for 150. So it's going to be $600 a month.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I'm saving that
In
much.
Canada. In Canada, is that a lot of money?
It's pretty much a lot of money. Yeah. Depends on what
So
you do. Honestly, if you have a like a 200K salary per year, then you wouldn't care, of course. But for me, yeah, it would be a lot of money.
so right now, for example, think of like people because you're right now also an academic here in university
Right.
and stuff like that. So how much do like teacher assistants and stuff make in Canada?
So, sorry, come again. What was the question?
How much do like teacher assistants and
Oh,
stuff, people who
TA
work in university make in
depends
Canada?
on the university, but like TAs at our university, I believe they make close to $50 an hour.
And what's the amount of hours that they work? Like, bottom line, what's their salary per month or per year?
It depends on how many courses you take part in, but say around I don't know, 2,000-3,000 max, or
Per month.
well, assuming they're only doing teaching assistant jobs. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, that's right. So it's about $3,000 a month. Right?
That's like a top, like maximum, maybe
maximum.
Two, yeah.
So if is it worth, from your perspective? Let's say you make $2,000 to $3,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
Is it worth to spend $600 on cooking and cleaning and stuff like this? Is it really worth it or not? So, and how about taking that time and working more in your career?
That's generally my philosophy. So my philosophy is, if I can, if the net would be positive, so I have to pay somebody to do something, and I can free up that time and do something with it. If I can earn more than I have to spend, that's definitely worth it. That's just no question. Unless I'm actually enjoying the task, but I don't.
Exactly.
Right.
So you mentioned, how much are these basically these TAs paid per hour?
$50.
$50.
Yeah.
And you give these basically housemates 14.5. That's right, per hour. So isn't that, I think, from your point of view, rational to give that 10 hours to a, let's say, housemate, and then spend that 10 hours working and increase your income by 10 times 50 minus 14.5? Isn't that a good idea, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good idea, and assuming you can actually work more. Like, that's the tricky part. So, for example, when I'm at home actually cooking, is, as I mentioned, the whole process might take, for example, an hour or an hour and a half or something like that. Let's say 2 hours. But it's not like I'm wasting all of the 2 hours. As I mentioned, I optimize on it. I listen to podcasts, I read, etc. So I don't know if it's necessarily a completely positive on that sense, because it's not making major difference in my time. That's what I'm trying to say. So in my absolute waste of time, like the times that I'm not optimizing on it, not listening to podcasts, whatever, is the amount of time, like, for example, per week, perhaps would be 5-6 hours. And with that 5-6 hours, it's not a whole lot, So
that's right.
Again, this is my lifestyle, by the way. A lot of people spend a lot more time doing all these things. But I am completely on board with your philosophy, especially with, for example, sometimes I'll give you an example, which is not my problem, and it's not the topic that we have today, but it makes a lot of sense. So a lot of people spend a lot of time on their garden, and some of them also really like it, right? And a lot of them really like it, and that's perfectly fine. But if you don't really like it, I would say, okay, yeah, pay a guy to take care of your garden, and just go ahead and do something that you can earn money for with it. So yeah, I'm on board with that philosophy. I completely agree with you, because you might not really get that time back, and it's a lot of time. Especially like mowing the lawn is actually not that bad. When you have to go and take out the weed off the grass, that's a horrible.
Oh my God,
that's gruesome. Wow. Like, it's painful. I don't
that
like it.
Makes
it takes
cooking
forever.
Look like walking in the park.
Exactly. My type of cooking for sure.
All right.
So again, for me, right now I am pretty busy, but I'm not super busy. If I get a degree busier, then I would probably do what you say, hiring a maid or something. That would make a lot of sense. But at this point, it's manageable, I think.
Fantastic, buddy. Great. So we talked a lot about cooking at home, and now I'm getting a lot excited. But let's talk a little bit also about eating outside. So what are your preferences? How do you pick places? What type of restaurants you like to go to eat out?
That's a good question. I personally do like to experiment a lot with food, but at the same time, probably not as bad as you, but I do have some food allergies, especially in large quantities. It will cause harm to me. Not in like if I have those things in minimal quantities, it's probably not going to be an issue. But so yeah, I do like to experiment with food, but at the same time, I have limitations. Some of them biologically imposed, and some of them that I impose on myself, as I mentioned. For example, those health conscious, the behaviors. So, but I do like to go different places, and at the same time, I do like to go to places that I already enjoyed. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Striking the balance.
The same thing here. I'm also a huge fan of eating outside. Generally, of course, it comes down to what type of restaurant and what type of service they're offering.
Hmm.
And also depends on the time of the year as well. I mean,
True,
certain
true.
places are a lot better. Like I'm a huge fan of eating outdoors.
Oh yeah,
Basically, when I let's say let's say during summertime, I just enjoy it so much. Versus eating indoors, of course, when it's colder, and it also depends on your type of dishes. So I'm a
right,
huge fan of Italian dishes,
right.
and I find it to be perhaps the world's best cuisine from my perspective. I
I
really
like
love it.
Italian very much too. Yeah.
It's one of the best thing ever. It really suits me a lot, and I just love it so much. So, what are your favorite dishes, by the way? Like, what type
Oh
of
yeah.
cuisine do you prefer to have for yourself?
I do. I love Italian quite a lot. It's like, sorry, it's one of the cuisines that I do enjoy a lot. Uh, Besides Italian, I like to experiment with food. I'm not a huge foodie, so as much as I do enjoy tastes and food and all that, it's not a major concern for me. So it's not like I have to
Mhm.
have a proper cuisine or something like that. It's
Dude,
not like that for
you're
me.
like Einstein. I'm telling you, you're like Einstein. Totally. It's like, look, is that potato or chicken? Who cares? Let's go. Gravity affects all objects equally. All right. That's right.
So
Pretty
yeah, I
cool.
mean, I do enjoy. No, don't get me wrong, but it's not a major concern. It's okay.
That's
So
right.
I can go through. But I do like Italian, probably on on type of cuisines based on the geographical location. I would say Italian definitely one of my favorites. Yeah. And
Fantastic. So,
one thing that I think you also do and enjoy is you can correct me if I'm wrong, is going like eating outside for the purpose of social gatherings or business meetings or something like that.
exactly.
Right.
Well, I generally, let's be honest, what I'm usually depends on if it's socializing. I usually prefer to go for a cup of coffee if it's during the day or for a
Right.
drink at night. I don't like to eat while I'm socializing because I'm super talkative, and this has
Oh yeah,
happened to me a lot.
I
Where
have
I
problems with that
literally,
too.
I just start coughing. Sorry about that, or something. So generally, if I'm in a very talkative mode, and when I'm hanging out with my friends or going on dates, I'm generally very talkative. So I prefer not to actually eat. I prefer
Hmm.
to drink
Right.
or order coffee or tea or whatever it is, just something liquid that I can just talk basically.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
This I always go for a business lunch and or also business dinners depending on the time of the day and the whole things, because during business lunch and business dinner I'm not super talkative because in business you have to focus on the business, which is the contracts, the
Sure.
prices and the conditions, and usually I do not steal the conversation, if you will, during a business
Right.
conversation. I tend to actually listen a lot more than I speak. And because of that, since I'm listening most of the time during a business meeting, I tend to find it very easy and even enjoyable to eat.
Right.
And because of this, I usually arrange dinners or lunches only for business. I rarely go out with my friends to eat because, I'm talking, dude, and they're talking, and like nobody can eat because like the food gets cold. And like, can we eat now, Danielle? And could you please just stop
Shut
talking for a minute?
up.
So because of this, usually I go for a drink, basically, and that's going to help me a lot as well. However, I love to actually go out and eat because, as I mentioned earlier, since my skills of cooking are somewhere between null and nothing, because of this, I oftentimes
Somewhere
prefer to
between
eat
no and
outside.
nothing. That was really fun. Okay, cool, cool.
That's exactly what my skill currently is, except for salad. And since
Right, right,
I
right.
love high calorie and high protein foods because I'm a bodybuilder, so I can't just rely only on salad. And
Right.
because of this, I generally love to pick places, and I use Google a lot in this case. And of
Oh
course,
yeah.
sometimes I use certain websites that have recommendations and whatnot. But ultimately, I really believe that since nowadays we have this huge ad on basically on all websites about different restaurants, I think the best way to actually find a restaurant is to try it. It's
Yeah,
literally
for
like
sure.
discovering a good restaurant,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
And
yeah, I agree with you.
really, for me, it's like a discovery because you never know until you try it, basically. And because of this, of course, sometimes I like to go old school and go for like burgers and stuff
Right.
occasionally, just for the heck of it, even though
Yeah,
it's
of
not
course.
very healthy.
I do that
But
too. That's fine.
it's really like it's like one of my guilty pleasures. I just see the
Exactly.
burgers, dude. I mean,
Guilty
come
pleasures.
on, Dan, you're not supposed to eat that, but just can't resist it.
No.
And generally, I like to choose the right places. Usually, I tend to also ask a lot of basically for advice from the ladies because I think generally girls choose restaurants much better than guys do because
Sure.
guys generally are not so much aware of the environment as the girls are in general. And all of that subtlety. So they give me a lot of great advices, and I try them, and it's really, really wonderful. So I'm a huge fan of eating outside as well. And generally, I think it's wonderful. We all should try it.
Yep.
However, as I mentioned earlier, that health issue oftentimes will compel us to find ways to eat at home.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the financial incentives also will allow us to find it much more economical to actually cook and eat at home.
Precisely, and I agree with you. Like, especially again for socializing, and my methods are a little bit different. I understand. Like, I'm quite talkative too, and for that very reason, I think the people are fine to go out with me on a food meal, like lunch or whatever. And the reason is they get to eat and I get to talk, and I'm fine with taking because I eat my food very relatively slow, and they're fine with me talking, and I'm fine with
Wow.
talking while eating. It's
Dude,
yeah.
Is your name Francois? Because you totally sound French. You look French right now on your avatar. Because I heard the French are like this, like they eat very slowly. Because
I'm not that slow, by the way, but I know
Americans eat like a friggin' tiger. They just grab the stuff and just eat it, basically. Right. The French and the Europeans are very slow eaters, and literally sometimes I just see some of these Europeans who are eating slowly. It's like, dude, do you want to fucking put all of that shit in your mouth, or I do it myself? Like, literally, I just, like, sometimes I don't know how could they do this. Like,
no, I'm not that slow, by the way. First of all, let me.
You're not French slow, right?
No. It depends on the meal that I'm having too, and I'll explain on that. First, secondly, the reason I do eat slow, I really like to take my time with my food. I flirt with it, essentially. You could say. So
my God,
it's enjoyable.
That seems honestly like one of your interesting somethings, you know.
Yeah,
I'm guessing. I don't know about that, buddy, but everybody has a fetish. Everybody has a fetish.
Well, although that's true, this is not true of me. I'm just saying.
Okay, very well, fantastic.
So for that very reason, like my favorite meal of the day is brunch. Honestly, like I take such a joy out of brunch that wherever I want to meet people, I prefer to meet them at brunch. And for that very reason, for one of the guests who were on our show before, Ishan, so he recently got injured and he went through some knee surgery, so he's not really mobile at this point. But then a while ago, we used to go. And we will continue when he gets better. We used to go on brunches pretty much every month or so, and we would basically the two of us. It was basically some exchange of ideas, catching up and all those things. It was mostly intellectual, actually. In all honesty, it was like a exchange of ideas, like the genome project, etc.
Oh my!
But well, that's.
And usually, one question: what time you guys usually have that?
Right. So, I mean, it really depends. So, like, we would usually go for 11, but my preference depends on when I wake up. So when I wake up, I usually break fast somehow, with something simple, not sophisticated. And then usually after that, a couple of hours to 2 to 3 hours after that, I would like to have my brunch. So if I'm waking up at 6, then I would be 9. But if I'm waking up at 9,
that's not a brunch, 12. Buddy. That's so early.
No, I know, but then 9. I woke up too early. That's the problem, right?
Oh, so, wow. Yeah. That's the first time I'm hearing people saying, dude, I woke up too early. Why? Because I missed my brunch. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, man. I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that gap that creates. So I broke my fast, so my body is thinking that I'm gonna give it food, but not quite. So 2 hours later, it's like, give me something, and I'm super hungry, and I tease
your own body.
Exactly,
and you even tease your own body. That's
so the reason is I want to maximize on the pleasure of brunch because I really like brunch.
Wow! And what did you order for brunch?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of a few things. One of them is our pancakes, crepes, vegetables within all of these that I'm talking about, like lots of vegetables and maple syrup. Well, Canadians.
Wow.
So, yeah, those are my favorites. Not that I don't get other stuff. I sometimes go for eggs or whatever, but then the pancake and crepes are my favorites.
That's amazing, buddy. I'm already getting hungry talking to you right now.
Yeah, I know. My mouth is watering right now. It's
very good.
Can we talk about something else?
So true, man. So true.
Yeah, so to sum up, sort of, I completely agree with you. I do enjoy eating out as much, but it I have to have control over the things that I'm getting in. So if I generally, again, I have guilty pleasures like everybody else. That's fine, but okay, that's very occasional. But in general, if I'm eating out, I want to know where I'm going, what I'm eating, for the health reasons. But at the same time, I also like to prepare my food because it's very financially rewarding and also it's very healthy.
That's amazing. Yeah. We can save all of that money and then go gamble. Pretty good, man. Love
Pretty
it.
much, yeah. That's the dream, right?
Very good, man. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's that's what I do.
So ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, I really believe that you should learn how to cook.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, it's sometimes very difficult. And as you get older as a man, it becomes even harder. I don't know why. Maybe like when you get older, it becomes easier. I don't know. Because I know a lot of old people who just cook all the time. So maybe that'll change at that time. But for now, I really want to learn how to cook. And hopefully someday I will start with you and just ask you a lot of questions. And then you give me all of your French answers. So grab this one like this. And then don't put it there. Only for this one. This is going to be a lot better. So I'm going to get some of those tips, hopefully. But generally,
is it a 25.5 degrees Celsius?
Oh my goodness! Think about it. Wow. But generally, I think I love both of those. And right now, I'm only capable of just arranging eating outside. Fortunately, I'm not able to somehow cook at home yet. But if I learn someday, it'll be just wonderful, man.
Yeah. It's definitely it has its own rewards for sure. I agree with you. But with that, we're really coming to we had a fun episode today. I'm really my mouth is really watering right now. That's right. I think I'm super hungry. But we're gonna have to eventually conclude this episode. So, any final comments?
Ultimately, guys, you want to make the most of your food because you are your food. Like literally, like I once read this somewhere. I don't know exactly where I read it. It said you are the food that you eat because that food that goes inside of your body is going to affect you so much. And those who are careless about their diet, about the things they eat on a regular basis, will ultimately have a lot of health problems in the future. Things like obesity, unfortunately, nowadays are running amok in all major societies around the world. And because of this, being able to somehow pay close attention to our food that we consume on a regular basis can tremendously improve not only the quality of our life, but also our energy level. Because I heard like the biggest amount of energy that the body needs is for digestion. And by choosing poor material, you can actually lose a lot of energy, and that energy could otherwise be spent on pursuing a lot of great things in life to become happier and more successful. And if you don't have that energy, then why? So ultimately, this is not just about cooking. It's not just about having fun. It is really about designing a great, effective lifestyle that requires you to choose what types of food and material and dishes to have on a regular basis to have the energy that you need to go forward. And I highly recommend everybody here, first to myself and the rest of course, our listeners, to do consider both. You cannot just rely on restaurants, and you cannot just rely on cooking at home because it's going to be too alone and too lonely. So you want to have a combination of both, and that'll make life so sweet and so delicious. Oh boy, I'm getting hungry.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like as you mentioned, you're the food that you eat, and for all the health reasons that you mentioned, and probably much more, I would also mention to be health conscious. That doesn't mean like you have to create all of your meals, but it means that even if you're going out, you can still be health conscious, where I'm going, what I'm eating, what I'm ordering, for all those reasons that you mentioned, and probably much more. And that's the driver for my for what I eat, essentially. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And thank you again for being with us, Dan.
Always a pleasure, buddy. Always a pleasure.
And thank you all for tuning in. Until a later time.